Welcome to Tableau Speed Tipping. I'm Ann Jackson. I'm a Tableau Zen Master and Analytics Evangelist at Jackson 2, and I'm joined by
Lorna Eden. I'm a Public Ambassador and a Senior Data and Visualization Officer at JISC.
So some related sessions. We actually gave this session yesterday. Did anybody happen to join us for that and is back for a repeat? No one? One? Okay, fair enough.
There's a couple of hands over there, Anne.
Thank you for coming back. So our other related session is the user group Tableau Tip Battle, which will be Friday, November 15th, 2:15 to 3:16 in the Four Seasons. There's a little bit of history when it comes to this session. This is the 4th year that we put it on. Lorna and actually first got our start as being friends on the Tableau Tip Battle stage. So if you come out of this session and you haven't gotten enough tips, please go to the user group Tableau Tip Battle. Okay. The big takeaway here, if you're going to take a picture of anything, take a picture of this. Don't bother taking notes. If you've never come to this session, you're in for a surprise. We are going to be talking nonstop, rapid-fire tips for the next 60 minutes. After we finish this session, we'll be posting up the solutions, the starter, the solution, everything along with the YouTube video embedded, all on Tableau Public. This is where you'll be able to find it, so please just soak in all that knowledge, walk away amazed, and have a great time. Last thing before we dive right into it is please complete the session survey. Like I said, this is a legacy session. This is the 4th time we've brought it to TC. So please, if you enjoy the content, if you like the energy and enthusiasm, or if you have some feedback that you want to give to us, we encourage you to fill out the session survey in the mobile app. Anything else you want to say?
I'm going to win.
Oh yes, I should say this. When you hear a good tip, make some noise. And let's actually practice that. Everyone make noise, clap. Let's hear some energy. Yes! Perfect. If you hear something or see something, make some noise. That's really going to keep us energized. This is less competitive this year. Last year, we sort of counted the tips. We hit 135 collectively. Someone won and someone lost.
Yeah, but I'm going to win this time, so it's okay.
So this year, please direct all your attention to Lorna because she's got a fantastic set of tips. She's going to blow me out of the water this year. All right, you ready?
Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go.
Boom.
Okay, so first off, I'm just going to say I'm sponsored by Prepping Data. If you've not heard of it, you need to just search Prepping Data.
Tip 1.
Tip 1. It's a great way to learn Tableau Prep. So we're just going to go through some Tableau Prep tips. So the first thing I'm going to do is not connect to a stats file. I'm going to connect to...
Never do that. That's a good tip.
Yeah, never do that. I'm going to connect to an Excel file. When I bring it in, it's going to take forever to load. But when I add a new step in here, we can see that we've got this extra city field, which we don't want and don't need because we love formatted spreadsheets, right? Everybody loves them. But what we can do is we've got this data interpreter here, which allows Tableau to pick up the 2 separate tables in our data. So if I drag them both in and I can union them together, and it's literally just a drag and drop, so they lie on top of each other, which is cool. You can also then change the color of these, so I'm going to go blue, and yellow makes green because I'm OCD with my colors and I like to have things on. That's a tip, right? Come on, they need some energy. Thank you. Okay, so the other thing that we can do here is we can have text, so we can change the name of it, so I can just call it union, but then I can also add our description in here. So this is the union of 2 cities. But then if I don't want that there all the time, I can toggle that on and off, so it depends on how cluttered you want your workflow. Thank you. So if we add a new step, what we can do here is we can remove columns that we don't want, and as you saw this morning, we have the new data pane over here, so you can see different ways. The other thing we have is our city field, so we want to be able to clean that up. Now there's various ways that you can do this, but the group and replace is really powerful and really cool. So there's 4 different sections: your manual selection, pronunciation, common characters, and spelling. So I'm just going to go by spelling. It's going to automatically bucket them up into the spelling that it is, but there's one that's out, which means that you can change the sensitivity on your grouping to allow that one to be added back into your group.
Nice.
Thank you. Another quick tip there is that you can add into your, where's it gone? Group by, if you add this, hit this little plus button and you know there's an extra data field coming in, someone's really bad at spelling, so you put that extra one in just in case, then you've future-proof your workflow. In the top here, we have our field so that you can see what you've done in each step. And then you have the changes log down here, which you can right click and copy and then paste that into a different step so that you can reuse it all the time. We also have what you can do with calculated fields is I want to merge metric and measure together. So if I create a calculated field and just call it metric and then add in the measure, not that first, measure, and then if I overwrite that, it'll automatically overwrite the previous one that's already there, which means then I can hide this one. That was a tip, come on.
Yeah.
I need some more energy, guys. So the other thing that I want to do with my data is I want to, instead of having each one as a row, I want the metric to be a column. So we can add a pivot. So within our pivots, we have two separate options. We have columns to rows and rows to columns. The good thing with columns to rows is that you can multi-pivot by adding this plus. So if you have a heavily formatted spreadsheet, say you have years and then months, you can pivot it twice to make it work out better for your metrics.
I did not know that.
Thanks, Anne. And then if you go to rows to columns, we can then put the value down there and the metric over here, and we can then see that we have each of the metrics in a different column. The next thing is we have our recommendation here from Tableau, which is cool. It wants me to change my city field to a city data role, which allows it to generate latitude and longitudes when we do put it into Tableau. We have our view pane here, so if I zoom in really, really far, I can then zoom across and see different parts of my workflow. And if I click on a different step, you can then see it in your workflow as to where you are. And that is me. Over to you, Anne.
All right, switch it. Okay, so one of my favorite things about Tableau Prep that's happened this year is the ability to connect to more data sources. So new for 2019.4, you can connect to your Google Drive. So I'll go ahead and connect. This means that you can actually bring your Google Sheets directly into your prep workflows. I'll pick my Data 19 dirty data right there. So because I've got dirty data, one thing I want to share with you are a few regular expressions or regex expressions that I think you'll find to be helpful. Anyone use regex in their day-to-day? Yes! I love you guys. Okay.
That doesn't count as a tip, Anne.
It does. Doing good work. Okay, so the first one, if you look over at my companies, I'm going to try to clean up this LLC section here. So you'll notice it's kind of placed in there a few different ways. There's capital letters. And there's a period in here, so if I go in and look at my calculated field, you can see that regex replace expression. So just a couple tips here. So that parentheses, question mark I, that's to ignore case sensitivity in there. So we're just going to ignore if it's upper or lower. We don't care, we want it. And then that slash with the period, that's looking for that repeated towards the end. That's what that slash B is. Look at the end of that string. These are great things to know about regex. Take it away. And then we're going to replace that whole thing with the LLC. So this is fantastic if you have dirty data. No more writing those nasty if statements. Just use regex instead, please. Okay, another great way to use regex is there's actually regular expressions pre-built into Tableau Prep that you can customize further. So as an example, with my first name, when you go in and clean, you see some of these. These actually start out as regex. So I'm going to go ahead and click remove letters. It's not really what I want, but I want you to kind of see what's going to happen. That's actually going to be this one. We'll clean and we'll remove my letters here. It's going to remove all of the letters from there. That's not what I want exactly, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and modify it. So the value here is I don't need to know what the regex is. Prep told me what the regex is. It's looking for that alpha there, so all I need to do is just hijack this function and change it. So I'm going to make it a regex match instead of a replace. So we'll drop this extra parameter at the end because we're not going to be replacing anything. We'll make it an if statement. So now it's just a Boolean. If it matches this, then that's fantastic. Then we want it to be the first name, end. And then now whenever I save this, it's going to clean up my first names. And now there's nulls where there was only punctuation before. So if you're ever wondering what to do with your regex expressions, start with the ones that are built in and tinker with them. Okay, my last regex expression, which I know you're really excited to hear this one, is about repeating numbers. So if you'll notice, I have these phone numbers here. Usually when I register my Tableau license, I end up putting 555 and everything. I don't know if you guys do that as well, because I don't want Tableau calling me. So here's the regular expression for fixing it. That's a good tip. Yeah.
No.
555. Whenever you register, you activate your product key. So to take care of that one, here's what we're going to do. So this little caret looks for the beginning of the string, and then that /d is look for the digit. Remember what that digit is. Then the /1 with the plus is look for repetition from that. The $sign is all the way to the end. So once I put that into place, all of those repeated phone numbers that have those digits in them get nulled out because they're not real. Okay. So this was kind of shown on Devs on Stage, so I think they stole my thunder, but in case you were curious, this is in Prep now, so you can select multiple steps, and you can save those steps either to a file or to publish to server. So if you saw it on Devs on Stage, you can go do it right now. It's a good tip. Okay. So this is probably the other thing about Prep that I love this year is you can now connect to published data sources starting with 2019.3. This is huge. So over on the left, I've got my Tableau server. It doesn't look like I'm actually connected to it right now for some reason, but that's okay. The value of this is you can bring in other cloud data sources. Salesforce is a really good example of what you can't bring into Prep right now. You can do that with published data sources. So now I've got Google Analytics and Salesforce all in my Prep workflow because they're published data sources. I can aggregate those up, put them together. So I've got my Google Analytics, people coming to my website, and the opportunities in Salesforce so I can share that information out to my business users. Okay, back to you.
Don't forget you can move your flow around.
Oh yes, one more tip. This is great. Lorna remembers this because she has OCD as well, is you can move all your prep steps around. So you can actually move them on the canvas, which is kind of nice. And so you can move the different pieces. I'll try to move the orange one up for you. So if you're trying to reorganize and make it just a little bit prettier, now you have control over that as well.
That was my tip though, yeah?
Thanks, Lorna.
Okay, so this time we're going to talk about some maps. Who likes spatial stuff? Anybody love maps? Woo! Yeah, so spatial joins. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about this on Devs on Stage with a buffer, so I'm just going to go and show you actually how to do that, because they didn't do that on stage. But anyway, whatever. So we have two sets of data. We have a shape file, and we have our crime file. So the crime is from London 2018, and it gives me the latitude and longitude of every crime in London. So that's interesting. But here it is mapped out. So we have all of our crimes in London, and the colours are the different lower super output areas. And now if you notice over here that we've got a code at the end, I could stop being lazy and just calculate it without the code, but where's the fun in that? Yeah. So we're going to go to, we have our shape file, which is our London boroughs, and what I want to do is I want to know how many crimes are within Redbridge, or how many crimes are within Havering. So I can do that by doing spatial joins. So if I go into my data set and go to the right file, and if we add a new connection in here, and I want to add in a new spatial file, and I've got my spatial file set up here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new join calculation, which is all about make point. And we're going to go from the latitude to the longitude, and we're going to hit OK. This is going to create a geometric field within our Tableau, a data source, so that we can do that spatial join. So we're going to go to the geometry, which is already located within your spatial file. I'm going to change this to intersects. So that's going to make sure that every point that's within that geometry will give me that higher level area of London. Now, it's a little bit slow, so I'm not going to do it live. So here's something I prepared earlier. Oh. I have an extract of my data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double-click geometry, put name onto details, so then I have all of my individual sections. Then I'm just going to drag count distinctive crime ID onto my colors. So now I can see how many individual crimes were in that area without having to do any form of calculations.
Nice.
Thanks. Last year there was the new mark type called density, so I'm going to show you how to do that one. So at the minute with this map, a point map, we can only really see that there's a little bit of darkness in the middle here, and we can't see any other areas of concern. So what we can do is if we change this to a density map, we can see that there's other areas that we can focus on. So we can see that there's something down here, there's something over there, so there's other, you can see that much clearer with a density map. Woo? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, who likes Ed Sheeran?
You do.
Oh, yes, there's someone over there. Well done. Okay, so I don't stalk him, I promise, but I have his home latitude and longitude in my data set. So I'm just going to show you how to create the make point again. So this is, I'm just going to call this home. It's not my home, it's his home. Make point. home latitude.
We need to talk later.
Home longitude. So this is going to create that geometric thing that we talked about before, and then we can do something called make line. So make line is going to make a line, which is super interesting. So we can go from our home location, and then we can go to our tour location so we can see how far or where Ed Sheeran has been on tour. So now I've got that make line. If I double click, it automatically makes a line, and if I add the venue to detail, we can then hover over each one of those. Over to you.
I'll pause for applause. Okay, so I'm going to kind of start off a little bit basic. So first, this is probably the #1 level of detail expression you should know. So I've got it wrapped right in here, and it's this guy. So it's the fixed level of detail expression, finding the max order date in your data set. This is great if you're doing any sort of dynamic calculation, so that as your data updates, you'll be able to make any year-over-year calculations. I've just wrapped that whole thing in the year function for fun. So I've got my bar chart. I'm going to show you some fun things with reference lines, but I just want to show you this first calculation. This is my current year sales using that LOD. So if you ever find yourself picking up someone else's workbook, you can always jump into the calculated field and you can see what it's referencing. And over on the right, it's going to have what that computation is in there. You can even describe and see the domain of it or do a sanity check like I would do. Is it 2019? Yeah, it's 2019. Woo! Okay. So I've built out that LOD. I'm going to go ahead and bring on last year's sales and show you some fun stuff with reference lines. So first, let me go ahead and add a reference line with my last year sales. And let's go ahead and make it a sum. We'll do it per cell, and let's put the value on there. And then I'm going to make it like obnoxiously orange so you can see what happens. So nothing special here, but in case you make a mistake and you put the wrong thing on your reference line and the other one on the bar, you can right-click and you can actually swap your reference line fields just quickly. The other thing you can do is, let's say you brought on the completely wrong field, but you went through all the pain and agony of that formatting. You can actually drag on a separate field. So I'm going to bring on my subcategory goal, drop it right on top of that other pill, and it's going to save that formatting so you don't need to redo it. And then you'll notice I've got this gnarly tooltip, so the total one subcategory equals, so new with Tableau 2019.3-ish. You can update the tooltip. You can either turn it off altogether or you can customize it, which is fantastic. So now you don't have any more gnarly tooltips whenever folks are hovering over your reference lines. Okay, so with the invention or the ability for us to now control tooltips and reference lines, this becomes maybe a little less relevant, but I still like to do it. And that's actually, instead of making reference lines, make Gantt bars instead that look like reference lines. So I'm going to build out the same concept. Let's go ahead and bring on my subcategory goal. I'm going to make it a dual axis. So you'll notice if this ever happens to you, I've got one mark in the front and one in the back. So here's a micro tip. You can switch the order of the pills to switch the order of them, or you can just right-click on the axis and move the marks to the back. Either one works just fine. Okay, so let me go ahead and change my goal type to a Gantt. And the value of this is that I actually have control over the size of that Gantt, so I can make it larger or smaller. And the other beauty of this is I have the fully integrated tooltip. So now I can say the subcategory goal is X. I have much more information that I can share with my end users. Okay, yeah, come on, give me some more applause. Let me go ahead and switch this guy over to our last year's sales, and let me make sure these are synchronized. And I'm going to show you probably the most underutilized function, at least from my perspective, inside of Tableau, and that is the sign function. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. Is anyone familiar with the sign function?
I mean, you haven't.
Yes!
You haven't mentioned it at all.
I've only mentioned it maybe like 5 times. Okay. So if you look at this, inside here, I've got just the difference between my current year sales and my prior year sales. I've wrapped that whole thing in this sign function. And the sign function is fantastic because it returns 3 results: 1, 0, or -1. 1 if it's positive, 0 if it's 0, or -1 if it's negative. And the reason that's awesome is when I drag it onto my bar chart, I can easily color those. Yeah. And if you don't like the continuous color scale, you can just right-click, make it discrete, and now you've got your red, green, just like you want. Okay, back to you.
Cool. Okay, so continuing with this spatial recognition, I have the latitude and longitude of the Houses of Parliament, so that we want to be able to see how many crimes are around the Houses of Parliament. So I already have this make point calculation here, so we can just scroll in and see that. But what I also have done is created the crime point. So we're going to create a distance calculation, and this one's going to just be distance. No, not that one, though. Distance of the Houses of Parliament versus the crime point And then here we can have different options. So we can either have miles, kilometers, meters, or feet, depending on which one you want to work with. So I'm just going to work with MI, which is miles, and then we're going to hit OK. So I'm just going to add this onto my filters and just change that to 5. This is then going to create that circle around my point so that you've got that radial around it. The other thing that we can do here is we can, if I show this parameter control, I've got my options to change what metric I'm looking at. We can then have that calculation, that parameter within our calculation, so we can reference that parameter back in. So now, because I've already created a bin, you just create a bin of 1. And if I add this to color, we can then see the colors are starting to change. So if I then change this to feet, you can then see the radials, bars all the way around. Nice.
Good.
So there's lots of different mapping functionalities in here. So if we go to map layers, we used to only have the top 3, but now we have the bottom 3 as well, which allows us to have street, outdoors, and satellite. So if I click on satellite, you'll be able to see all the buildings. And if I zoom in, you're never going to get a pixelated view because we have vector maps, which is very new in Tableau. Tip.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm from the UK, if you can't tell, and I don't really want to see Ireland or the Europe because of Brexit. I mean, what's that all about? So I just want a lovely map of the UK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take city off detail and change this to a filled map. So now I get my outline of my regions. So if I go to map layers, and if I take everything off, I then remove the options of seeing everything apart from my UK. And if I change this to white, so you can see it in the background, and then I dual axis, I hit Command on my Mac and dragged and dropped it, so you can have an extra one there. And then if I put city back onto detail and change this back to blue and right click on here and dual axis, we then have a map with our UK individual sales on the map. We can also use the mapping section for creating custom region or custom geographic fields. So this data set here, we have our 3 regions, central, north, and south, but I have the individual breakdown. If I take country off there, Tableau doesn't know what to do with it. So what we can do is if I right click on region and go to geographic role and go down to create from country, and then if I take country off of detail, it then aggregates that up. So that means you can map sum of sales by each of the different regions. Over to you.
All right. Okay, so this tip section is all about using the circle mark. So one of the things that became really popular this year, at least on Twitter and Tableau Public, were rounded bars. So I'm going to show you how to make that. So Lorna showed you how to copy fields holding a command key on your Mac. So if you're on a PC like me, you can hold down your control key to just duplicate that. Same concept. I love dual axis charts, by the way, so you're going to see this all the time. I'm going to go ahead and synchronize these. And if I just change my secondary mark to a circle and I tinker with the size a little bit of the bar and the circle, then I can get a rounded bar chart. Now, if one rounded edge isn't enough, you can easily make it a double rounded bar chart. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on a dummy calculation. It's going to be the minimum of 0. Now I can drag this up here and make it a combined axis or a shared axis. You can tell that because it's got those double rulers. When I drop it down on there, that's going to invoke measure names and measure values. So now I've got 2 rounded edges. I can pull measure names off of my color to get that full double rounded bar effect. Okay, once you've done this, you're only 1 step away from making a barbell chart, or maybe 2 steps away. So all we need to do now is I'm going to bring on my last year sales, and I'm going to have that replace my minimum of 0. So now you can see those 2 dots represent the different colors. What I really want is a line in between those. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my bar chart. I'm going to change it to a Gantt line, a Gantt bar down here, and then I've got a calculation that's the bar length. Really simple. It's just the difference between last year and current year sales. Once I drag that onto my size, now I've got a nice barbell chart of 2 connected dots. Okay. My last circle mark tip for you is how to make what I call a floating dot. So all I'm going to do here just for fun is I'm going to do a quick table calculation to get to the percent of total. And I'm going to go ahead and change my bar chart to a circle chart. And let's make this a little bit larger. So again, I'm just going to make a dummy calculation, this time the minimum of 1. You can do the average. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and make this a dual axis. I don't even need to combine these at this point. Too lazy to do that. I'll make it a bar chart. Let's take this guy off. All I need to do is fix the axis on this so it goes from 0 to 1. And then if we just make that bar chart a little bit thinner, you've got a really fancy floating kind of dot plot chart.
Woo.
Okay.
Okay, so if you did come yesterday, this is a new section because I didn't get around to doing it, so my bad. So we're going to go through set actions and parameter actions. Now, who loves sets?
Yes.
Who prefers parameters? Okay, so we're going to go through both and the use cases of each one. So here we have a map. I can click on central and it'll update my percentage of totals, and this is just using set actions. So how do we do that? So what we can do is if we right click on our segment in here, if we right click and create set, this allows us to create our segment set. So this is the first step of creating the set action. So I'm just going to hit consumer and hit OK, and then I'm just going to drag that onto text. So you can see here we've got an in and an out. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. So if I go to worksheet actions, and then if I add a new set action, I can then change this to my segment set. And we can either do it on hover, select, or menu, and then we either keep the set values, add them all to the set, or remove them all from the set. So I'm just going to keep the set values. The other thing that we can do here is, have you ever done a set action on a worksheet, then moved it to a dashboard, and it's broke? Yes. Well, this is a great tip, which is from Rosario. If you change it from your sheet to your data source, which is number 8, I think, it will then it will tick all of these sheets because that's all that it could be used against. But then when I use this in a dashboard, it will carry that set action over. I like it. So this is going to, so this is just going to carry over. So every time I click on something else, it's then going to change that set value as to what's in and what's out, which is cool. The next one is parameter actions. So if I just hit entire view, every time I click on a parameter, click on a subcategory, it's going to change that value. All we do here is if I create a blank parameter, and just call this state P, and I just change it to a string. It doesn't need to have anything in, so it's literally just blank. I'll just show you what it's doing as I'm going through. It just gives it a default value of 1. But if I go to worksheet, actions, add new, change parameter value, you can change your parameter to the state P, and which field that you want to use. So again, I want to use state. And just rename this. Always make sure that you rename your thing so when someone else picks it up, they know exactly what that option is doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then hit OK and hit OK. You then have to create a calculation to say whether it's true or false against your state. But if I just click on Virginia, you should be able to see over here that it automatically updates to Virginia. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what it's doing. So I click on another one, it'll then update to that. So hopefully with the new dynamic parameters, it might make that a little bit easier, but that's a super exciting tip. The other thing that we can do here is we can have set actions for selection. So I use the average of 1 to make bars. So again, like Anne did before, if you set it to 0 and 1, it makes a bar chart. But what we can do from here is if I wanted to change which section I'm clicking on, we just go to worksheet action. No, not worksheet at all because I'm on a dashboard. Come on, Lana. Dashboard, actions, add action, change set values, and then remember which region set that you're on, change the sheet, so it's sheet 27, keep set values, hit OK again, and again you've got that selection, so every time you hit a different selection it will then change all the way across. We all love tables, right? Everybody loves tables. Now, oh no, this might not go down very well.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Okay, I'm rolling. It's okay. So let's say we have our technology, but we want to drill down, but then I also want to be able to click on office supplies and see. But I only ever want to see one at a time. So this is a great use case for set actions. So the first thing you would do is you would create a set on category, which I have here. So this is just a set on the category, so it's the high-level options. You would then create a calculated field, which is under 28, so I know where it is. Why are you not opening? There it is. Edit. So what this is doing is it's wrapping an if statement in an if. So this first section is if the category drill down set is true, then bring me back the category, and then if that equals the category, then pull back the subcategory, else nothing. So that's going to just make sure that whenever I click on something else, it's going to bring back that specific subcategory. So that was cool in 2018.3. Then parameter actions came out, which made it a lot easier. So again, it's the same option. You create a new parameter, which is called category, which is there. Again, it's just a blank category, a blank parameter, and you set up your actions in the same way. So if I go to worksheet actions, I'll just show you the action. You pick the parameter, and then you pick the field, and then automatically when you click on a different, the calculation that you need to make it work is if the parameter equals category, then subcategory. So the calculation is not as complicated as the set action one. So now when I click on office supplies, it will change it here, and it will also change it in our parameter.
Okay, so apparently you guys don't like text tables, and I'm going to show you a text table right now. So bear with me. Okay, so if you ever have slow data, you can always pause your data and build out your viz without querying it. So I'm going to build out a quick text table. You can see my notes here. I'm right-click dragging, so I can pick how I want my filter to be just right off the bat. This is going to be the 2019 year. It's going to be by month. So I'm right-click dragging. Remember this. And then I'm going to change this to discrete. I'm going to bring on my subcategory. You're going to be wowed by this fantastic text table that I'm about to build for you. And I'll bring on my profit ratio. And then once I push play again, now I've got a beautiful text table. Woo! Okay. Not the tip, by the way. So when you get to this point, people, tend to, this is what they want, right? So sometimes you can kind of trick them and maybe drag it onto color, so you have something like this. Fine, that appeases them, or maybe you can get away with a highlight table. But there are some really grumpy people who are like, nope, I really just want that text table. For those folks, what I usually do for them is build out something like this. It's called, let's find it here. It is the profit ratio alert dot. And guess what? It's the sign function again.
Really?
So very useful function, by the way. So this is pretty simple, right? If the profit ratio is negative, then I want to put a dot there. Otherwise, I want it to be blank. Now I'm going to just drop that onto text as well. And let's go in and edit my label here. And I'm just going to drop it over to the left. And let's make it red, because people like it when things are red. And now you have a beautiful little alert dot on your text table to make it just a little bit more useful. Okay, my next example for you is a great way to look at two different KPIs or metrics at the same time using custom shapes. So in this scenario, I've got my subcategory again, and you can see these two measures over here. I've got my quantity results and my sales result, comparing them to the prior year, and I'm using the sign function. So I'm going to go ahead and build out some more dummy calculations. I'm going to just use the minimum of 0 twice. I'm going to go ahead and make it a dual axis and synchronize them. And what I'm going to do is use custom shapes. So I'm going to change my mark type to shape, and you're going to start to see what happens here. So for the first one, my shape choice is going to be a triangle that's down with the corner in the bottom left. So a right triangle, bottom left. And on the other one, I'm going to make it go the other direction, the upper right. Now I can drag on one of these fields to color for each one. So there's my quantity. And I'll bring sales on. And so now you have a really fantastic dual KPI chart that you can share. These look great on dashboards because they don't take up any space at all. Okay, so we all love big ass numbers, right? Everybody wants them, everybody loves them. So here's a way just to make them a little bit more dynamic. So you can see over here, I'm gonna toggle between corporate and home office. So it'd be great if profit ratio is negative in home office, that it was nice and red so my executive knew that it sucked. So let's go ahead and build that on. So right now we just have our normal text mark, but I'm just going to build out another dummy calculation. This will be the minimum of 1 to make it a bar chart. Now I can just edit my axis. I'm going to fix it again. And then I'll just drag on my profit ratio. I don't even know which one I need to do here. The alert, no, that won't work. Let's see. Number 7 here, let's find it. The KPI color profit ratio, guys, guess what it has in it? It has sign in it, again. And I'm gonna drag that onto color, and now I've got a beautiful dynamic background that will change depending on what the result is.
My only issue is you spelled color wrong.
Color is spelled correctly. Okay.
It's not.
So how many of you guys use emojis in your visualizations right now? Wow, you need to be using emojis in Tableau. Nothing could be better than using emojis in Tableau. So if you're looking for the best emoji resource and you can use this at work, it's Emojipedia. I like going to this not only because I can see all the cool emojis, but you can see what they look like and how they render in different browsers if people are on a phone. So this is a great handy resource. So I like to use emojis for alerts. So I've got this handy calculation that's called Emoji Alert. And let me show you what it's got in it. It doesn't have sign in it this time, guys. Okay, so I've got a simple calculation of year-over-year sales percentage difference. And this has 3 results. If it's greater than 50%, check mark, we're doing fantastic. If it's greater than 25%, that's okay. Otherwise, it's crap, okay? So let's go ahead and bring that on. So now you've got your alert here, and that's great. I'd love to put it on the left side to make it pop a little bit more. So if I bring it over to the left, you'll notice that it's aggregating by that emoji alert. To get around that, what I can do is I can actually duplicate my subcategory. All I need to do is duplicate it, nothing special, drag it on as a copy. Now I'll move my emoji alert in between those two, and I can hide this header. So now I've got my emoji alert on the left, and it's still good to go. All right, so I love working with dates in Tableau. I love the drill through feature, but I know a lot of times I'll get emails where people have done something like this, like, Anne, help, I made a mistake. And I'm like, yeah, you just clicked plus way too many times. And you don't want them to have that option. So one thing you can do is build out custom dates. So if you right click on your date, you can go to create custom dates. You'll have all the different options in here. I'm going to create a custom month. You'll notice you've got date part and date value. Date value is going to bring back a date, so it's going to truncate it back to the beginning of the month. So today is November 14th, 2019. It's going to turn today into November 1st, 2019. If it were the date part, it would just be the number 11. So I'm going to go ahead and create that custom date. Now when I drop that on top, notice there is no drill through. So if you don't want them to drill, they're not going to be able to drill. That's a good tip. Okay. So if you're not satisfied with that tip and you really want to build out a custom hierarchy, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and build another custom date, and this time it's going to not be a parameter, it's going to be a custom date. And I'm going to build out the quarter. Same concept here. I'm going to go ahead and use the date value. So you'll see I've got my quarters and my months here. Another micro tip, I can hold down my control key to select multiple fields at the same time, and I can format them or change them from continuous to discrete at the same time. So I'm going to convert them both to discrete. Now I'm just going to drag and drop to make a hierarchy. So I can I'll actually drop months onto quarters. And now I've built in a hierarchy. Now I can just drag and drop this guy on top. Let's get rid of this. And now you've built in a custom drill through that goes to quarters and months, but that's all that it does. They can't do anything else with it. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a 12-month calendar that's got quarters going down the side and it's got the days of the week. So we can start out with just some of our different date parts. So I'm going to right-click, drag on. Let's bring on the weekday. So those are the days of the week. That should be pretty familiar. Let's go ahead and bring on the quarters. And the next thing we want to do is to bring on the month. So I really want to separate out the month of the quarter each time. So here's the calculation to do that. And this is where date trunk becomes your best friend. I'm going to take my order date, I'm going to roll it back to the quarter, and then I'm going to determine the number of months difference between the beginning of the quarter and the current month, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and bring that on right here. So now I've got these 3 different months, right? So you can kind of see this is where January is going to go. Here's February and so on. And I just need to do the same thing for the week of the month. Same concept, just replace the concept of quarter with month and month with week. So same thing, we're just going to figure out that difference there. I can go ahead and drag and drop that on. And now we've got a nice calendar where we can put our sales on there, and it's all in one beautiful screen. Okay.
Okay, so sticking with set actions and parameter actions, the good thing about set actions is you can use it for drill down. So I want to understand what's inside of this so I can see the range. So if I click on a different point, I can then see the range of what's actually affecting that value. So again, it's the same option. So you create a subcategory set, and then what we can do from here is we can create a calculation, which is... Dun, 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 dun. Let me find it. Edit. So this one is literally, all you want to do is if subcategory set, which is a true or false, then sales. Then we can dual axis this, and just on your second axis, we just have order ID for detail. So if you click off of it, it's not there because nothing in the set exists. So the way that this set action is set up is if I go to edit, we have it to remove all values from set instead of keep all values or add all values to set. Tip, come on, keep going. So the good thing about the sets is you can use them to show what's in and out of your set. You literally just put your set on shape, and then when you hit command or control, you can then tick both of them, and then you can have that as like a new filter option on your dashboard. Now, oh, this is a bit small. Okay.
This looks familiar.
Yeah, I wonder where this is from. Measure names and measure values have never been able to be used in calculations. Boo. Boo. Yeah. Until now. Now you can use parameter actions to be able to do this. So the way that we do it is we use the measure names and measure values to create our like KPIs, and then we have our metric calculation. So all we need to do is if we go to worksheet actions, it's not under worksheet, it's under dashboard. Dashboard, actions, and if we go to metric, it's literally just the same as before. So we have the metric parameter, and then we use the measure names field in our data set. But the way that we do the calculation, so if I go back to this sheet and I go to 32 and edit this, it's a good job we've got numbers, there's too many tips. We can then write that calculation to say, if the metric equals sales, then bring back the sum of sales. If it's metric, the metric equals profit ratio, then bring me back the profit ratio. So now, when I go to my dashboard and I hit discount, I can then see the discount over time, and I can use this as a high-level dashboard for someone else. You can also do it for reference lines. So we have our parameter set up here. So for profit and sales, we can then just click anywhere on that point, and it'll give me a different reference line for profit and sales. So it's the same setup. Actions, change set actions based on profit or sales. You can do that, which then also then leads you nicely onto a quadrant chart. So what we can do here is we can create a calculation, which looks like this. If the sum of sales is greater than the parameter sum of sales and the sum of profit is greater than the sum of the parameter profit, then high sales, high profit, so on and so forth. I'm not reading the rest of that out because you can just read it or find it later. But yes, then you can add that to your detail, and whenever you move and change points, it will then change the different selections on your parameter. Now, let's say we have this dashboard and we have a lot less space. But we definitely want our values to be on the top or the bottom of the line. Now this one is courtesy of Roddy Zarkovich?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Roddy.
Hey, Roddy, wherever you are. Add reference line. So before we had to create a level of detail calculation to get the max value, to then put it on a reference line, make it white, blah, 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 blah. But this time, what we can do is we go to distribution, and if you do change this distribution to -10 and 110, you can then make sure it's of the sum of sales. No. Wait, whoa, no. Oh no, what is it on? What is it? Minimum. No. Oh no. This is normally a good tip, I promise. I can't just...
Here's the tip, keep clicking,
keep clicking. I'm going. It's supposed to work. No, you don't need 2 lines, you can do it on a distribution. You should be able to. Why is it
Keep going.
Yeah, right. Okay, forget that one. No minus points though, but it's okay. In the new version of Tableau, we have auto phone layouts. You can switch them off if you want. So if you go to dashboard, add phone layouts.
Yes.
Turn that off. You can also add phone layouts to existing dashboards, which I didn't know until the other day. But you can click on that and then it'll add it on. You can rename dashboard zones down here. So if we have all of these lovely tiled, you can rename these so that you can know what they are. Hi, just because. And then what we can do here is we can also replace the worksheet. So if I click on this one, for example, this one. Oh, I can never find it. Where is it? There we go. So I click on a worksheet. You've got this little option down here. So I'm just going to zoom in. So we have something called swap sheets. This will automatically swap the sheet out, which then allows you to keep all of those parameters and set actions and all the actions on your dashboard. We also have the show hide container option. The way that we do this, we need to make sure that it's floating. Now, I'm on team tiled, but this does make me happy. So we've got a floating section here, and we don't want the users to be able to see it all the time. So if I hit the little drop down, add show hide button, we can edit these. So if I edit this button, you can have the close for the container, and then you can change the image. You can change it to a text section instead of an image, but you can customize these as much as you want. And then when I hit option on a Mac or Alt on Windows, it'll then toggle that on and off so that you can show and hide things. And another relatively new feature is a button, so we can drag it on from the left-hand side down here. And what we can do is if we edit this, it will automatically navigate to a different worksheet, so you can change it to worksheet or a dashboard. You can also then change it to a text button, so you can have it as a text rather than an image. And again, you can change that image and add tooltips to it, which is awesome. One of the new features is we have this thing called explain data. Now, we've not talked about it a lot recently, but if you have outliers in your data, you can use Tableau's explain data to automatically try and understand why is that an outlier. So is Sean Miller in the room?
No.
Oh, never mind. Sean Miller is an actual Tableau person, but he's just randomly in this data set of Tableau Superstores. But here we can see it's giving you an option as to what's going on. So we have a negative average profit, but then we also have this an extreme value in our data set. So you can see that there's an extreme value, which is up here. So we have a negative 1,800 profit. But if we want to exclude that value, we can click this little button here, and it'll take us to a new sheet, which then has that label automatically on there to tell you that that is excluded. And it's called Visualize the Difference, and it tells you in the caption what's happening. Now, I know you said you don't like tables, but we can have 50 columns in tables, people. Wow. Come on!
Don't clap, please, don't clap.
So if you go to Analysis, Table Layout, Advanced, it should automatically be set to 50 now instead, so you can do that. But you can also, this little tick box here allows you to take the labels from the bottom to the top. So to ignore what it says, it just does that. Top to the bottom, or bottom to the top, whichever way around it is. And then finally, we have this option to go to sheet is used. So if you right-click on a sheet and used in, you can see where that worksheet is used throughout your workbook.
Okay, we've got just about 13 minutes left, so bear with us. Okay, this actually comes from a use case that I saw in the field. So I had someone who wanted to have a dynamic text table. They didn't want to include the most recent month in the text table because it looks like it's lagging with that profit ratio, but they wanted to include it in the grand total. So the first thing I did was I made just this date period filter. This is very simple, where you have a parameter for the number of look back months. So today is the 14th, we want to look back 6 months. So I'm just truncating that data. All you need to do is build one more simple Boolean calculation. This is simple, true, false. Is the month of the order date the same month as today? If you go ahead and drag that on, you're going to get some headers at the top. Now you can right click and just hide this to hide it, but still include it in the grand total. And as we go forward in time, you're going to notice, if I jump over to December, that May is going to drop off and June's going to continue to go on. So this will continue to roll forward into time. Okay, this is probably my most complex tip, so bear with me on this one. This one's also really great. So I've got some highlighting going on. So the use case here is you can see I have this reference line. It's a threshold at 1%. So what I want to be able to do is dynamically combine those small categories, those small percentages. So here, envelopes, labels, fasteners into an other category. So right now you can see I have the percent of total for my sales. I'm going to remake that as an LOD. So to do that, pretty doggone simple. You take your sum of sales. This is a great reason to use exclude in your level of detail expressions. So on the denominator, I'm excluding the subcategory, finding the total sum of sales, taking the max of that so I don't over multiply and get too much sales. And this is going to be the same concept for the percent of total. The reason I'm doing this is because you can use level of detail expressions inside of sets. So traditionally, to make a set, you'd actually go to the dimension, so the subcategory, you'd right-click and you'd create a set. But instead, I'm going to show you the fully baked set here. So this one, pretty easy. So instead of using the general where you're picking from that list, I have a calculated condition down here that just looks at that LOD, that percent of total, and determines if it's above that threshold or not. So if it's greater than or equal to that threshold, then it's going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false, or it's going to be out of the set. The last thing I need to do, if you're keeping track with me, is now use that set to combine a new subcategory dimension. So again, walking it through, I've now got my set. So if my subcategory is inside my set, I want to display the subcategory. Otherwise, I want to make it other. Let me go ahead and drag and drop this on, and I'll sort it so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Here's other right here. I'll go ahead and make this 0 just so you believe me. There's no other right now, and so I can go ahead and increase it to maybe 2.5%, and it's going to start dynamically combining all of those different subcategories. So this is pretty cool. The last thing I would do here is to actually sort this. It's manually sorted. If you right-click, you can see it is manually sorted, which is not what we want. I want other to always be at the bottom. So I've just created a sort calculation. Again, I'm using that dimension. If it's other, I'm going to make it -100, so it's always going to be at the bottom. I don't have any negative sales. That doesn't make sense. Otherwise, I'm just going to return the sales. So now I'm going to use that sort measure instead so that I can always have the correct sort on my bar chart. Okay, so this is sort of the inverse of what I just showed you. So now imagine you have a grand total that shouldn't include today in there. So this is maybe for short periods of time where you want to communicate how much sales you've had up to today, but not including today. So you can go in and you can format your grand total, and I'll just put in here, not today. And this tip kind of hacks the attribute function if you're familiar with it. So the goal is to not include November 14th data in the grand total. I want to have all of this information in my text table, but I don't want to include it in my grand total. To do that, the first thing I'm going to do is build a calculated field that's called sales not today. So again, pretty simple. If the order date is not equal to today, then I want to return sales. Otherwise, it's going to be null. I'll even bring that onto the text mark so you can see it. So this is the total that I really want over here on the right. Now, this is where I'm going to hack that attribute function, and I'm going to use this concept. So the attribute function evaluates the minimum and the maximum. If they're the same, it's going to return the value. If they're not, things are going to kind of go a mess. But we're going to use that concept here. So notice that if the minimum order date and the max order date aren't the same, then give me the sales not including today. That only happens in the grand total. Everywhere else, it's always the same. So in those scenarios, I want to return the sales. I'll drag and drop that onto my label and go ahead and take this off. And now my grand total has that value, but not including today in it. Thanks. It's a good one. Okay, so here's another good way to it's a hard one to figure out, yeah. Here's one to dynamically combine dimensions. So imagine you have a filter over on the right, and you want to add this on as a label down here. If you drag it on like this, it's going to separate apart. That's not what you want. If you were going to drag it on like the attribute, then you're going to see that gnarly little asterisk, which is not what you want either. So instead, what you can do is you can actually just build out a combined dimension using the same concept I just showed you before. It's going to do the same thing. If the minimum subcategory is not equal to the maximum subcategory, then put multiple subcategories. Otherwise, just give me that subcategory back. So now when I drag that onto label, and I'll go ahead and untick and start reticking. If I've got one, it's accessories. If I've got multiple, it's going to start it's going to say multiple categories instead. Okay, so another kind of handy thing, hey, look, guys, I used the sign function again. Okay, so another one that I like to do is build out dynamic footers. So this would be nice if I had sort of information of the range of my data in here. So I like to use titles for just this case. So typically what I'll do is I'll bring on my order date, I'll bring it onto detail, I'll bring on my minimum order date, I'll do the same thing, I'll bring on my maximum order date. And I'm not even going to worry about what's in the middle of the sheet. I'm going to go ahead and make that a polygon, and I'm just going to focus on the title up here. And I'm going to go ahead and insert my minimum order date and my max order date. And that's all I've got to start. I'm going to go ahead and, actually, I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to find sheet 15 here and drag it onto my dashboard. Let's make it the entire view. So this is good to start, right? I know my data is between this. I really want to add on this region. So let me go ahead and apply the worksheet filter to all on my dashboard, which includes this guy down here. And what I want to do is actually add on the region. So now I can insert that region field here. And the reason why this is great, and I'll actually make this a little bit smaller so you can see sort of the distinguishment here, is that when we use dimensions in titles or in captions, they actually display differently. So now if I uncheck West, you're going to see it says the different values down at the bottom as opposed to saying that all are one or the other. So this is actually kind of handy. Okay, back to you. 5 minutes left.
5 minutes.
Are we going to get to the end? We're going to get close.
Ooh, let's go. Do I have to talk fast? Do you want me to talk faster? No? Okay, so let's say we have this calendar, but we have gaps here. I know there's no sales, but I can guarantee you that there's somebody that wants them to tell you that there's no sales. So you want that tooltip there, right? So what we need to do is we need to use a scaffold in here. So we need a date table. So my scaffold is literally just a list of dates all the way through 2018. So you can do that in most databases. You can have an incremental date on there. So all I'm going to do is if I go to my data source and I have a right join. The reason I'm doing a right join is because I want to include all of my dates from my date scaffold, not just the ones that join. So what we do here is we make sure that we use that new date field, not order date, which is what I did when I originally built it. But then what you can do, don't tut at me, you can replace references. It's not that hard. Oh. So you replace references, and then you can replace references with the date, which then allows us to do this. So what we can do now is if I put sales on here, what's going on here?
You're fine.
Oh, what? Yeah, my aggregation is gone. Oh, there we go, wrong one. So if I put sales on here, because of the color scale, you think that 5 has like $33 for sales. So what I did was I created a new calculation and said if this is null sales, which is the dates that are on the right side of my join, then make it 0, else sales. I'm going to add that to color, and then just bear with me because it's the same thing at the minute, but if I edit the colors and I go to advanced, I start at 0, but I then center it at 1.
Do that
Use the full color range and then change it to white. Now, when I change it, it's then going to change that color range. I now have white there, and I have my tooltip. So market basket analysis allows you to compare between how many orders have the same different subcategories. So, for example, I want to know how many bookcases were sold with appliances, for example. So the way that we do this is if I go to the data source, and we have our superstore matrix, all we need to do is we need to drag orders back on and hit join. Now, all we need to do here is hit subcategory to subcategory, and then change it to does not equal. So now what happens when I do this is if I drag on the other subcategory, so subcategory orders 1, we then get this matrix here built up. But what I want is I only want the both sides of the matrix are the same. So that means we only really need one side. So if I go back to my data source and I change this to just less than, when I go back to my market basket, it then takes away that bottom or top half, depending on which one you're doing. And then, so everybody loves Comic Sans, right? Yeah, everybody loves it. But I decided that I don't want subcategory anymore, and I want segment. If I drag and drop, you think it's going to keep the formatting. Wrong. So it actually changed it. But what you can do, and again, this was a tip from Corey Jones, who was the IronViz contestant from last year. If I edit the pill that it's connected to, and I hit enter, it then keeps that formatting, because the formatting is on the pill, not the section. Back to you.
Okay. Gosh, I've got 2 minutes left here, so we'll see how far we get. So this one's actually a pretty fun one. So let's imagine you have 2 different dates, and you really want to start comparing periods of time. So I've got this time period calculation that's just going to segment time. So I've got, I don't know, maybe a week's worth of data, 9:15 to 9:22. I want to compare it directly prior. So the first thing I have is just this calculation. I'm going to bring it on to color so you can see the 2 time periods I want to be comparing. So here's how it would start, but what I really want is I want the lines to be over each other. I want to compare day to day to each other. So one way to do the normalization is I'm just going to drag my day over onto my mark shelf to put it on detail, and I'm going to build out an index. Now this is where you'll get to this and I'll say, don't panic, it's fine, we're going to fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a line, and then all I need to do is just change how my index is addressing my data. So I'm going to check both of these different boxes, and notice I've got this restarting every. I want to restart it every time period, and now I've got a nice line chart that's got my 2 dates comparing the different time periods. Okay. We'll end on this one. This is the other way that you can do it. I don't really prefer this way, but whatever, to each their own. So instead of doing that, what you can do instead is you can actually make a normalized date instead. So instead of doing the index, if table calculations are just too hard for you, you can define that, you can look at your dimension and say if it's not equal to the current period, then we're just going to add the number of days between that period to my original order date. Otherwise, we're going to keep it as my original order date. I'll go ahead and drag that on to the right so you can see exactly what this is going to look like. And then you can just hide the axis. Usually what I do in these situations is I'll bring on the attribute onto label so that they can see exactly what it is, and I'll even get fancy and I'll match the mark color. And we'll leave it at that. Woo!
We rocked it, Anne.
So thank you guys for joining us. Needless to say, there were more tips. We thank you so much for being here. Please look out for the Tableau Public workbooks that should be posted within the next week or so. And enjoy conference.
I won!
Lauren, I won!
Yay!